Welcome back. Today we're going to review the movie Stay that is over on Hulu. It is your moody, supernatural, somewhat haunted house. It's a romance mixed with a little bit of horror. And it's basically about a couple that is trapped inside their home while they deal with trauma, ghosts, memories, and a lot of other unsettled things that they have going on in their past and in their present. I'm going to give you an overview of it first. It's going to be a spoiler free overview. Then I'm going to give you a breakdown, which is full of spoilers. This movie was pretty simple and it is pretty isolated, is what I should say. I shouldn't say simple, but it's an isolated story contained into the house. But before we jump into it, please remember to like and subscribe. I appreciate that. And keep coming back for more content. So, the movie synopsis of Stay 2025, because Hulu has two Stay movies on it. This is Stay 2025. It's produced by Anscape, if that helps you find it. But Stay centers on Kiara. She's a spiritual author, and her ex-husband, or maybe he's not her ex-husband yet, but they're definitely going through a divorce. His name is Miles. He's a former MMA fighter who must face their failed marriage or failing marriage, however you want to look at it, and the tragic loss of their son, who plays a big role later, and the attempt to sell their home. Instead of just simply moving out of the house, they become physically trapped in the house, what we think are by supernatural forces. I thought it was voodoo. It was turned out to be some Beninese folklore that may have played a role into them getting trapped in the house. But basically, while they're trapped in the house, they're going to have to confront their fractured relationship, their family secrets, and some presence that refuses to let them go. The film is basically a modern horror with some folklore, leading Kiara and Miles down this crazy path of mystery and hallucinations, arguments, and a bunch of supernatural other things that happen. And it's basically to dredge up all the things that were left unsaid during their marriage and while they've been going through this process of getting divorced. That is the overview in a nutshell of what Stay is. And if that's not enough to make you watch it, then let me tell you this. It was a great movie. It caught me a little off guard because it was very slow. I guess when I saw horror, I expected a little bit more, you know, jump scares, maybe some hairs raising on the arms or something like that. And you're really not going to get this from this movie. So if you're going in it for a horror movie, then you're probably going to be disappointed. So, but approach it from a not even a romance movie. It's more thrillerish, like kind of meets you in the middle, but it's heavy on the romance and light on the horror. But overall, a very good movie. I enjoyed it. I would give it a 7 out of 10 if I was truly rating it. Initially, when I first finished it, I really didn't feel that way about it. But after I sat back and digested it and really thought about it and thought about how hard it is to make a romance, a horror movie, then I was pretty impressed with it. But now I'm going to go into the spoiler breakdown of this movie and give you guys a little bit more in depth of what this movie is. So if you don't want to know what the movie is and you want to watch it for yourself and come back later, this is your moment to leave. This is spoiler alert. And so this movie basically opens, the story kicks off with Kiera and Miles. They've already split. She's in the house by herself, packing up the house. They are basically trying to move on from their marriage and sell the house and go their separate ways. She clearly is still holding on to him. She still wants to be with him. And I think initially the way it comes off is that he still wants to be with her, but he's very, very angry. They introduce a lot of flashbacks in this film to kind of feed us points in their marriage where they were happy and stuff like that. And it does make you question, like, okay, if they have all these happy memories or whatnot, like what happened? Um, they are, like I said, it gives you everything except the death of their son, which comes along later, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But the death of their son plays, once that's revealed, it makes the entire movie make sense. Up until that point, it's a little confusing, but the reveal of the death of the son unlocks the movie, and it's just like, oh, okay, this is why that's happened. This is why that happened. But Miles comes to the house later that night or whatnot. And once they're both back in the house together, the doors and the windows basically seal up and they can't get out of the house. And basically they're stuck there to deal with their stuff and try to get through their stuff. They don't really know that's the reason why they're there, but they're there to basically, I'll call it healing, but basically just to deal with their shit and to try to mend their relationship and continue to be together. They get unnerving buzzing sounds. There are a lot of weird sounds in this movie. I didn't really care for the sound of the movie with some of like the horror elements with the buzzing noises, the some of the some of the visuals were a little bit distorted, but I'm sure that's by design to show that what was real at the time versus what was a memory or a live flashback or something like that. But there are a lot of spiritual traditions and a lot of spiritual happenings in this movie that I thought were voodoo. I didn't think they were a West African spiritual type thing. I thought it was more voodoo. And if you watch the film, you'll understand what I mean. Because initially I thought this was a voodoo type romantic horror film or whatnot. Because the guy, even in the movie, at one point alludes to, "Oh, did you put a root on me?" So that definitely made me think, okay, this is voodoo. But so the hauntings and stuff deepen the hallucinations, the sinister visions that they're having. I didn't mention that I did mention that she's a book author, but I didn't mention that the type of author she is, she delves into like spiritualist type, what I thought was voodoo, but Beninese is a country in West Africa, but dives into the spiritual stuff that she grew up in and of her origin. And it plays in my opinion, a small role in this movie because, in my opinion, it's almost like a fake out because what's really keeping them in the house isn't really her spiritualist stuff. It's not even the voodoo or the spiritualist or any of that. So, but the house is basically a living force, and the strain of them having to stay in there together, locked by themselves. This is a very contained story with basically two people the entire movie. So there's a lot of dialogue. I think the dialogue was really good because it helps explain some of the flashbacks and things that are happening in the movie. And it helps us dive deeper into their story as well as they're hashing out their marriage in real time, so to speak. But basically everything is centers on and started with the death of their son. That's where all the grief and distrust and everything stems from. And that basically takes us to the climax of the movie. Unless I missed something, this is the first time I even saw the son in the movie. It's revealed that basically the son's spirit is what's keeping them trapped in the house. Through another flashback that showed where Kiara was in the house on the phone, I think her publicist or whatnot, getting ready for a book tour, and the son was outside playing with a plane or whatnot. And then he eventually, the flies plane into the backyard, gets stuck in a tree. And it shows him standing on top of a table by a swimming pool. And then it flashes to inside the house. It's the son's birthday, by the way. The dad just came back with some gifts for the son. And, they go looking for him. They think he's hiding. Then the mom from an upstairs window sees him floating in the pool. And from there, we all obviously knows what happens. And then his spirit arrives. And the parents are very happy to see him, and he tells them that he's the one who trapped them in the house because he wanted to do anything possible to keep the link between all three of them connected. And that basically unlocks the story for the entire movie. Okay, this is why they've been to marriage counseling, and this is why marriage counseling didn't work, and why there's so much, even with going to counseling, still being held back from the other and not really telling them the other's true feelings or whatnot. And they achieve somewhat quickly this healing through seeing their son, and they accept the fact that he's gone, and that he even comments that he'll always be with them. And the supernatural grip that's over the house phase, and now they're able to leave the house and like they wanted to. So basically from there, the movie basically ends with not a flashback, but it goes into the future a ways, because it shows them basically back together. They're still in the house, and the camera zooms out and shows her with a baby bump, and then it fades to black. So that was basically Stay in a nutshell. And while I was caught off guard by the slowness of it, most romance movies are slow, and this was every bit of a romance movie. With like I said, with horror elements thrown in, some supernatural stuff. They're not. There's like one tense moment in the entire movie, and it's when Kiara's standing at the door, and we think somebody's probably going to grab her with a kiss because we know this is a horror movie. But that's probably the most tense moment as far as horror goes in a movie. But the characters, like I said, Kiera, she has spiritual knowledge, which helps them navigate some parts of this movie. Miles is a former MMA guy who has, a lot of stress built up and, a lot of tension built up because their son died. Jeremiah's the son's name. He shows up at the end, but he is basically the key that unlocks the entire story of this film. And then the house is basically the antagonist of the story. It keeps them trapped, locked in. It plays tricks on them, and they fight each other. They fight themselves at one point, quite literally. And that's basically that. So what I have to ask you all about it is, how does trauma haunt people, and can you truly let losing a kid is another type of trauma that I don't think most people would get over. So, but do you think that ancestral or spiritual traditions are a way of healing from those type of things? That's something that I pulled from the movie, and a question I wanted to ask to see if it was relevant to just real life and see how others may feel about it. Another question I wanted to ask is, if you've seen this movie, how did the slow pace affect you, or did it kind of lose you a little bit? Because I will admit, 45 minutes into this movie, I've hit pause and I was like, damn, still got 30 minutes left, because it was moving like hella slow. So that's was probably my biggest issue with the movie. Outside of that, and thinking that it was voodoo, because I don't think it was clearly explained that this was a West African spiritual, because they think it's a ghost initially, but you don't know where it's from. So I think that maybe could have been better described, like what region of the world we were dealing with as far as what we're fighting, because we have aliens now, and there's all types of voodoo and all types of hauntings, and everything is different from different parts of the world. So I just think maybe explaining that part would have just helped me at least understand that, oh, this isn't necessarily voodoo that we're dealing with, this is something more spiritual. And that's really my only complaint of the movie. I think everybody should go check it out. It was a really good movie over on Hulu, in their Hulu Wings section. And it is Stay 2025. Like I said, there's another Stay on there, I think from 2005. But really good movie produced by Anscape. I was pleasantly surprised because never seen a movie by Anscape before. So this was a good experience, and I look forward to seeing more of their content in the near future. I'm going to look them up in on Hulu and see what else, if they have any other horror movies or whatnot. But keep coming back for more. I have some more content coming down the pipeline. I'm going to be checking out The Woman in Cabin 10 today, and probably the movie Vicious, along with hopefully Tron's. Stand by for those reviews. Those will be coming very, very soon. And I think I'm going to wrap it up with Stay is a good, somewhat of a haunted house movie that I think you should check out. It's worth the watch. It's an hour and 20 minutes. It's slow, so just prepare yourself. And I think knowing that going into it will help viewers. But thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you all. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and tell me what you're thinking. And follow me on all my other socials as well. And I will see you guys next time. See you later.